The legends and myths of pirates come from the golden age of piracy during the late 17th century till the early 18th century. From there, stories have been told and retold until legends blend with facts. With the dawn of film and television, the stories of the begone scoundrels and piracy continues to be popular. But these myths would not have existed if it weren't for those individuals who they were based on. Myths and legends are born from those who seem legendary to us. So join us while we take a look at some of the most famous pirates throughout history. Blackbeard. Probably one of the most famous and well-known pirates is Blackbeard. It is believed that he was born as Edward Teach around 1680. However, very little is known about his youth. Eventually, he would make his way to the pirate stronghold on New Providence, where he would begin his career in piracy. Blackbeard would become a fearsome pirate who was known for how much he leaned into the theatrical. When attacking vessels, he would put lit fuses into his beard and along the brim of his hat, giving his face a fiery and unearthly glow. He was also known to arm himself with dozens of flintlock pistols and blades tucked into his coat, making him seem like some otherworldly warrior armed to the teeth and looking for blood. Using his ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, which was a former slave vessel that he outfitted with 40 cannons, Blackbeard blockades the port of South Carolina. Legends say that he then hid in the town of Beaufort, North Carolina, until the search for him was over. Eventually, Blackbeard was caught by the British Royal Navy and executed. His severed head was posted as a warning to all other pirates. Queen Nyota. The Queen of Illyria was one of the first written documents of a female pirate in the known world. After her husband died in 231 BC, Nyota stepped forward as the queen until her son came of age. She reigned over the tribes of Ardei in the Western Balkans and encouraged piracy against the neighboring kingdoms such as the Romans in the Adriatic Sea. Eventually, they would spread outward and plunder the Greeks and Italians as well. Her rampage became such a problem that the Romans sent dignitaries to parley with her. Though they tried to settle things peacefully with the pirate queen, Nyota refused and a brief war between Illyria and the Roman Empire began. Nyota could not match the Romans' power, however, and she would lose her throne and kingdom. Sir Francis Drake. Francis Drake made his career as a professional pirate. Working as a privateer for the British Royal Navy, he was considered the personal pirate of Queen Elizabeth I. During his career, Drake was a scourge of the Spanish forces. He was known to have circumvented the globe, capture numerous Spanish vessels, as well as raid towns and villages along the Spanish coast. For his service to the crown, he would go on to be knighted by the Queen and take part in the defeat of the Spanish Armada. Ching She. Ching She's life of piracy began as a prostitute on a floating brothel. She would be captured and eventually marry the Chinese pirate Zheng Yi. Together, the two would control the Red Flag Fleet, a powerful pirate armada that numbered 300 ships and somewhere between 20,000 to 40,000 men. After Zheng Yi's death in 1807, Ching She took full control and became the most powerful pirate queen in history. Working alongside her new lover, Chang Pao, who is said to have been the adopted son of Zheng Yi, Ching She grew the Red Flag Fleet to 1,800 ships and 80,000 bloodthirsty pirates. Ching She ruled her pirate empire with an iron fist, enforcing strict laws and rules of conduct for every crew member among her fleet. Ching She and the Red Flag Fleet plundered across Southeast Asia, making her the public enemy of the Chinese government. Eventually, the British and Portuguese Navy were enlisted to help bring the pirate empress to justice. Rather than risk death, Ching She struck a deal. If she were allowed to keep her vast fortune, she would give up her life of piracy and dissolve her empire. Upon this agreement, Ching She retired. She passed away at the age of 69, one of the most successful pirates in history. Henry Morgan. Another famous pirate from the Golden Age. It was said that Henry Morgan was actually backed by the British Crown, making him more of a privateer than a pirate. Using his small fleet, he would harass Spanish vessels throughout the Caribbean. He is most famous for his brutal raids on towns in Venezuela and Panama City, for which he was arrested. However, he would go on to be knighted and made governor of Jamaica, where he spent the rest of his life prosecuting pirates. Where I'm from, we call that a traitor. Anne Bonny. One of the most famous female pirates in history, Anne Bonny married a small-time pirate named James Bonny, and the two fled Ireland and made their way to an area in the Bahamas known as the Pirates' Republic. The marriage wouldn't last, however, and Bonny would take up with the pirate captain known as Calico Jack. Starting as his lover, she would eventually become the first mate aboard his vessel. Combined with their friend Mary Read, the three would plunder and pillage until 1720, when their ship would be attacked and captured. Jack and the rest of the surviving crew would be hanged, but Bonny and Read managed to survive since they were both pregnant. While Mary Read would die in prison from fever, there is no report of Anne Bonny's death. Francois Leloni. Born Jean-David Now, Leloni was a privateer who harassed the Caribbean in the mid to late 1600s. Jean-David was known for his excessive cruelty and would cut off pieces of his captives while they were still alive, or strangle them until their eyes would pop out of their heads. One legend states that he ripped out a man's heart and took a bite out of it. Supposedly, the man died in 1668 when he was captured and eaten by cannibals. So, karma. The Lioness of Brittany. Living in Brittany, Jean de Clisson was happily married with 5 children in northwest of France when the land wars between France and Britain began. Her husband, Oliver, was imprisoned and executed for treason, an act which made Jean vow to seek revenge against France's King Philip VI. She sold her lands and purchased 3 warships known as the Black Fleet. The ships were painted black and draped with red sails. For 13 years, the Lioness and her bloodthirsty crew sailed the English Channel in the Black Fleet. For 13 years, the Lioness and her bloodthirsty crew sailed the English Channel in the Black Fleet, capturing French ships, plundering them, and beheading any French aristocrats that she found on board. Her anger wouldn't last though, and eventually the Lioness would remarry and retire quickly, living out the rest of her days in happiness with a lieutenant in the British Navy. There you go, some of the best stories from the age of piracy and beyond. Of course, there are many more tales of the high seas out there, but those are stories for another time.